Getting a divorce in Vermont can be a complex and emotional time. This video will help you understand who can start a divorce case in Vermont, what the steps are, and when to get more legal help with your divorce. Find more details and a second video in the Divorce Roadmap on our website at vtlawhelp.org. Step 1. Know your rights and requirements. You can start a divorce in Vermont if either you or your spouse has lived in Vermont for at least the past 6 months. If neither of you live in Vermont, you can only get a divorce here if you got married in Vermont. You both agree on how to deal with your joint property and debts, and you don't have school-aged children together. If you had a civil union in Vermont and you want to end it, follow the same steps as for a divorce. First, how long will it take? Before having a final divorce hearing, you and your spouse must live separate and apart for at least 6 months. That means living separate lives, even if you still live under the same roof. If you're a Vermont resident, the court will not hold a final divorce hearing until you or your spouse have lived here for a full year. If you and your spouse have children together, the court will wait 6 months between when you start the case and the final hearing. A contested divorce, where you and your spouse disagree on some issues, usually takes longer than a stipulated divorce, where you both agree on how to handle your children, money, and property. A contested divorce is also more expensive than a stipulated divorce. Which brings us to our next topic. How much does it cost? When you file for divorce, you will pay the court a filing fee. You may also need to pay to serve or deliver papers to your spouse. If you can't afford to pay, you can apply for a fee waiver. Find out about fees in our Divorce Roadmap. You may also wonder, do you need a lawyer? Many people get a divorce in Vermont without a lawyer. But some cases are more complicated. For example, if you or your children have experienced domestic violence, or if you own certain kinds of property. Contact Legal Services Vermont for quick legal advice, or to be referred to the Vermont Lawyer Referral Service. Step 2. Get organized and talk to your spouse. Before you start working on the divorce paperwork, get organized. Gather information about your finances, expenses, and property. You'll need this information for meetings and court forms. Our Divorce Roadmap lists what information you need to gather. Getting a divorce in Vermont is easier, faster, and cheaper if you and your spouse agree on what will happen with your children, money, and property. If it's safe and possible, talk to your spouse and try to come to an agreement about these things. It may make the divorce less stressful, and you'll have more say over what happens. When you both agree on how to handle your children, money, and property, it's called a stipulated divorce. Without an agreement, it's called a contested divorce. The judge will divide your property based on what they think is fair. Even if you can only reach an agreement with your spouse about some issues, try to talk about money, bills, where you and your children will live, and decisions about your children's care. Our Divorce Roadmap has a list of issues to talk about. Learn the next steps to take in a second video in the Divorce Roadmap on vtlawhelp.org. Keep this in mind. If it's not safe for you to meet with or speak to your spouse, don't do it. If you need support because of abuse or potential abuse, get help by contacting an advocate or Legal Services Vermont.